Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. Welcome back to another video in the Non-Aviator Flight Sim series. So this video is going to cover climb. Basically, you've started the aircraft. If you need to know how to do that from a cold and dark state, you can take a look at this video here. That'll give you some general pointers on that. You then taxied. This video here will walk you through the basic information you need as a non-aviator to know how to do that. And then you have taken off. So if you need to understand all the dynamics and all the things that take place there, go ahead and take a peek at this video. And now you are between takeoff and cruise. So the portion of the flight where you're climbing up to your cruise altitude is the climb. Basically pretty simple, especially if you're in an autopilot aircraft. You're just making sure that your rate of climb is what you want, that the plane is proceeding where you need it to proceed, and you go forward and do that. So I've taken off. My plane is mid-flight, which is why I have things paused right now. So we're going to go ahead and take this off pause, and I'm just going to talk to you about the climb as we go ahead and continue to do that. All right, so we're here. You can see we're passing through 7,000 feet here. We've just taken off. We're heading to 25,000 feet. And then most aircraft are going to have a vertical speed indicator of some sort. In the Cessna CJ4 that I'm using for these videos, it's there. So you can see I'm at about 1,600, now 1,400. I have my autopilot set to a vertical speed of about 1,500, so it's going to continue doing that. My airspeed is here. So there's a couple important things you need to understand as you're climbing. So this F-15 is not talking about a fighter jet. It is talking about flaps at 15 degrees. And so basically, you do not want your flaps extended beyond that airspeed, or you could potentially be doing damage. So we can see here that my flaps are at 0. You know, I can also go look over here and see my flaps are at 0. There's 15 and there's 30. You know, my throttles are at this point, which translate to about 90% power right now. So that's what I'm doing. So below 10,000 feet in the United States, which is where we're flying, there's a airspeed limit of 250. So I'm going to speed up my engines a bit. I'm going to add some more throttle. That'll get us above the flap speed. And we might not get up fast enough to see the 250, but there will be a red indicator normally at 250 or 260 that will show you that you can't go further. Well, actually, it may change at 8,000 in the CJ4, if I remember correctly. So, but you're normally kind of, you know, we're right there, so we're going to go ahead, because usually it's as long as you're under 260, you're okay. But then you're going to have a limit of what the plane can take. So this red line would normally be down at 250 at some point, where now it's here at like 305. This is an indicator on this plane that's showing me kind of with the throttle settings I have and what's going on and the climb rate I have, like I am still going to accelerate. So like now I see I'm going too fast, so what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to decrease my engine. I have to change my view, or my throttle button just starts to pick things on the screen. So I've kind of spun my engines down a little too much, because now I'm slowing down. But again, I'm climbing. So you're going to need more throttle when you climb. We'll kind of back out here, because now you kind of know what you're looking at. You know, but again, I'm climbing to 25,000 feet as I go ahead and proceed on this flight. But climb is basically pretty simple. You're trying not to overspeed, so you're staying under 250. You know, the other thing you'd be doing now is, you know, you don't need... well, we should have had landing lights on. We didn't. We still had our taxi lights on, so shame on me. But you can turn off your landing lights, and usually if you've got passengers, especially in a commercial airliner, 10,000 feet is usually when you will turn off the seatbelt sign. and they're free to move about the cabin, as they say. So if you've ever gone on an airliner, you'll hear that ding over the intercom system. That's the kind of the automation in the airliner, letting everybody know, okay, the plane has crossed 10,000 feet, and usually that the captain will come on right away and, hey, we've just gotten through 10,000 feet. You're free to take off your seatbelts and move around the cabin. Listen to the flight crew for instructions if something changes, so forth and so on. All right, so now I've slowed down too much, but this is a good example of what you're trying to do, because obviously, like anything, the goal of flight is to get somewhere, and to get somewhere faster than you could another way, usually. So, going slower than you need to just means you're going to take longer to get there. So, you just play with your speed, but you don't want to go exceed, again, that 300, because that's, in this plane, the speed that then it puts stresses on the aircraft that start to damage the aircraft. That's what you're managing through the climb. If you're climbing on your own, flying manually, meaning that you're not using autopilot, that's what I mean by climbing on your own. Obviously, you've either trimmed the aircraft in a way that it's going to be climbing without you hopefully pulling back on the yoke too much, or you're pulling back on the controls and just kind of trying to get a climb a climb attitude of some sort to get up there. Again, if you change outside the aircraft, you can see, we've got a slight pitch up. It's not substantial. We're not climbing aggressively. 1,500 feet per minute is not a lot. But those are the basics of what you're taught, what you're dealing with. Obviously, if you need to fly a heading, if you need to do whatever, those are all just figuring out how to navigate. Navigation, flight planning, all of that. Videos for that will be coming. If you want them sooner rather than later, drop me a note here. I don't know, I'm not sure which sequence I'll be doing things, but I know those are all things you need to understand to be able to effectively fly. But, you can use this information on a limited basis, while you're doing pattern work. So if you want to do that, there's a video out on my channel about pattern work, as I call them, tiny flights that let you kind of practice everything you need to know. It's just, in a pattern, you don't have a long climb phase. You're not going to have a long cruise phase. You're not going to have a long descent phase. Like, those are like hyper focused. I mean, really, a pattern is best for practicing takeoff and landing and just basic control of an aircraft. But the nice thing in the flight sim, as I talked about in my takeoff video, like if you just want to practice certain pieces, you probably don't need to practice climbing too much. You just basically need to make sure you're gaining altitude, and then you're climbing. Once you know how to do that, you just need to be able to control it. But you can pause the simulator, as I'm going to do now, and you could go to end menu and you could start over. If you don't spawn yourself at an airport, you can spawn yourself midair, and then you can immediately start figuring out how to climb if you wanted to do that, for example. But I would assume you'd typically be practicing takeoff, climb, and getting into cruise kind of all at once you understand them. But I wanted to give these to you in chunks so that you understand what you're thinking about during each of them. So hopefully that gives you enough information. If not, obviously ask questions below. I'll be happy to answer and embellish. And if I've missed something significant, maybe there will be another video that comes out of it from basically things that people are saying, well, what about this or what about that? You didn't cover that. But these give you the basics of what you're doing in climbing. And if you've enjoyed it and haven't dropped a like, please consider that. If you are not a subscriber, please consider doing that. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next time.